So yeah. Okay, so we're going to start today with some things in sitting, and so I'm going to slide back a little bit. So you're going to sit, and it would be quite good if you had your legs on a slidey surface. So I'm sitting. Can you see my feet at the moment, or do you have to sit? No, you can't see my feet. I'll go slightly further back. It's quite good if you. I'm going to roll my mat up, because it's probably good to have your feet on a slightly slidier surface than the mat. We're going to be doing this sort of movements. So you can probably now, I'm just thinking, if like me, you've been out barefoot enjoying the nice weather, you probably can all see each other's dirty. So this is the first movement you're going to do. So the legs being long and wide, you're going to be sliding one foot in towards you and letting the knee fall out to the side, and do this quite quite sort of easy, lazy way. A bit nearer to check there's no one in the waiting room. So yeah, so we're doing this with one leg several times, seeing how this feels, sliding foot in towards you, all out to the side.
Kara?
Yes.
There's a lot of clicking going on. I don't know.
There's a lot of, I think it's Ruth. I'm going to mute her, okay? Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ruth, I'm not sure what Ruth was doing. She was moving things around. So, yeah, sorry, Ruth, you're muted for the moment. So, and then come on to, so if you've been doing that on one side, come on to the other side. So letting your foot slide in towards you, letting your knee fall out to the side. And yeah, usually we get noise when someone is moving their device around. So I think if you are moving your device around, it's probably good to mute it at that move yourself. Okay, so just do that a couple more times on side 2. Noisy somewhere else, so I'm going to have to mute it again. And then you're going to see, how does it feel doing this with both legs? So let both knees slide out to the side. And then eventually you're going to end up in cobbler pose. And just see how it feels to sit in cobbler pose for a moment. You could be leaning back onto your hands. You could be holding your feet. And just have a couple of breaths here. You could do a little bit of rocking from side to side if that feels comfortable. So what I haven't said, but I really, really is important, is don't do anything that's not comfortable. I keep thinking about this. We don't want to put any additional pressure on the NHS. So yeah, in yoga, we need to just be mindful of taking care of ourselves. Okay, and then lengthen your legs out again and have your legs a little bit wider now. So not really wide, but a little bit wider. And what you're going to do is lean onto one, so one leg stays long and you're going to lean onto that arm. And then you're going to bring your hand onto you're going to bend the other knee and bring your hand onto that knee. And you're doing this movement where you're letting your knee come in and out. Okay? And see how that feels. That's nice. So rocking the knee in and out. So you need to have enough space between your legs that your knee could come all the way down to the floor in the center. It's fine if it doesn't come all the way down to the floor, but you want to have the space that it could do. Okay. And then swap sides with this. So lean onto the other arm, lengthen out the leg you were just moving, bend the knee that was long, and bring your hand to stand, bring your hand on top of your knee and start to rock that leg side to side. I'm just going to come in and have a little bit of look at those I can see. Very nice. Just check no one's stuck in the waiting room. Excellent, lovely. Jan, you've got wonderful light up there in your loft, haven't you? How beautiful. So, yeah, absolutely gorgeous. Wow. Okay, and then just let your legs lengthen out, lean back on your arms and give your knees a bit of a bounce. And then you're going to have both knees bent and have your feet quite wide, so about as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And you're going to come to this movement. So sort of the same as what we were doing a moment ago, but with just one leg. You're doing it with both legs now. So tilting the knees to the right and to the left. And Emma, I know you like this one. You can pause and do a little bit of tapping of your... Remember this? I was doing this with another class the other day. And I said, oh, I really like this. And then someone that went very perplexed by the whole thing. And then you can go on to the other side and do some tapping on the other side. Yeah. And again, just keep it comfortable. These ones are good for releasing tension around the hip joint in particular. Maybe when you've tapped both knees, lengthen your legs out again, give them a little bit of a roll, and then come back to this side-to-side movement. So just make sure, because I can't see everyone's feet, make sure you've got enough space that your knee could come all the way down to the ground when it's coming into the centre. And then what you're going to do is let your legs come all the way down and settle in one side of pinwheel. And do a little bit of circling here and see how this feels. Very nice. And then whenever you're ready, whenever you want to, you're going to come into your forward bend in pinwheel. So you're going to turn towards the knee that's pointing out to the side, and you're going to fold your body and have a few breaths there. Good. Are you all right there, Panna? Have you muted yourself because it was noisy?
I had to go out, but I'm back. Sorry.
Okay, all right, okay, that's fine. You don't need to be muted. That's great. I was just checking that you're happy with this pinwheel movement, which I think we were pretty certain we did last week because I tend to do it all the time. So having a few breaths in side one of pinwheel. You can be nice and heavy, big exhalations. And then in your own time, you can swap onto the second side. So I generally like to swap sides by bringing the back leg on top of the knee I was just folding over, opening my legs out into cobbler pose once more, and then bringing that knee, the knee we just folded over, on top, and then that knee becomes the knee that's coming into the centre. A little bit of circling. So hopefully you're inside two of pinwheel. I've just found a new creaky spot on the floorboard, so almost slightly disturbing. And when you're ready, turning towards the knee that's going out to the side, folding your weight down over that leg and having a few breaths. That's interesting. I'm just wondering why Isabella is. She's not here tonight. All right, and just having a few breaths, folding into pinwheel on this side. Doing a big exhalation. Give the weight of your body down to the ground. Very nice, everyone. So Ruth, I'm going to unmute you now, but if you get noisy again, I shall mute you. Good. And then from your pinwheel, you can walk your hands back in towards you, lean back onto your hands, and then lengthen out your legs. And now you could take your legs a little bit wider and just see how it feels to come into your sort of wide sitting. Now, I didn't mention this in the email I sent out yesterday because I then planned the class today. It would be helpful for the neck. One of the things we're going to do lying down, to have a belt. It could even be a sock, something you could loop around your foot and hold on to. So if you need to grab something, maybe do that now, and then I will show you what we're going to do. Have we got things? Yes. So if anyone needs to leave the room, do that. So I'm going to give you a couple of options of things you can do while I show you what we're going to do lying down. So one thing is, if you like your wide sitting, do your wide sitting. If you prefer cobbler pose, you could do some cobbler pose, and you could also do your sort of wide cobbler pose, holding forwards a bit. So I'm going to show you now the things we're going to do lying down. I think it's, I think there's only one thing I need to show you, and this would be the thing with the belt. So this won't be the first thing we do. I'm going to do a couple of other things, but I'll be talking you into this. So, and I might move around so you can see it. So at a certain point, you're going to be coming into this position. So you've got one knee bent, one leg long. And then, we haven't done this one for ages, you're going to be doing this, where both knees come to the sides, both legs come to the side, and then both legs come towards the centre and cross the centre. I'm just thinking, if I turn around, it might be, is this a better way to see it?
Yeah.
That's it. Both, can you see, you've got a bent leg, you've got a long leg, and the legs are counterbalancing each other. Okay, so that's what we're going to, yeah. So we're going to do that, but not immediately. So lie down onto your backs and have your belt or a scarf or a sock nearby. And we're going to do a few other things to build up to that one. So the first thing is to settle down onto your backs with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. Good. So settling down, feeling the weight of your body on the ground. Maybe the first thing is, once you are lying down and you're settled, you can start to let your head roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. And just see how your neck feels. See how your shoulders feel. I think we were talking last week, I think that was you, wasn't it, Panna, about feeling, you know, if you're working from home, you might be feeling quite stiff in the neck and shoulders, possibly a lot of extra computer work than you're used to. So letting the head ease from side to side, and then finding a comfortable place where you can settle your head down and feel, yeah, where it just feels comfortable. And then just start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So very nice. So I can see quite a lot of knees tilting from side to side. Doesn't matter if I can't see your knees, as long as they are tilting from side to side. And just see, how does this feel? So we often do this movement, and it's a way to check in with our pelvis and our lower back and our hip joints. And how does everything feel in the lower part of our body? It also starts to move our low ribs as well. So it can give us a sense of how we're feeling a little bit higher up as well. So just a couple more times. Have your feet a generous hip width apart rather than really wide at this point. So Maria, you might want your feet not quite so wide as that. Yeah, sort of, yeah, feet hip width apart for this one. Okay, so maybe a couple more times. Let the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then settle the legs down, your legs down in the center. And you can either have your knees bent or lengthen your legs out now, because I'd just like you to bring your hands onto the front of your body and gather your awareness into your breathing. And just see how it feels to, yeah, how does it feel to feel your breath in your body? And I think there's been quite a lot in the press about, you know, what can we do to help our lungs, to help our breathing? What's the right way to breathe? And, you know, I think the most important thing is to, you know, things we do like twists are really good for releasing the rib cage, but also just this chance to let the breath have a bit of time and space. So as your breath comes in, give yourself enough time for the breath to expand fully within you without forcing. And as you exhale, giving again the time for your breath to leave you completely. So what it might mean is that we become a little bit more aware of those pauses at the beginning of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath, or the end of the in-breath and the end of the out-breath. So just have another cycle or two of breath with your hands resting on your body. Just again, this sense of there's all the time in the world to let the breath come in, to let the breath leave you. And now I'd like you to organise yourself. So you've got your right knee bent and your right foot standing on the floor and your left leg is long. Are we all there? Good. And then what you're going to do is start to let your right knee tilt in and out. So this should be a different feeling because you're just tilting the right knee. Your pelvis is going to be fairly settled. So your left leg is long. Your pelvis stays fairly settled on the floor. And this is the feeling of your right leg moving in the hip joint from side to side. And just keep it comfortable, keep it easy. A couple more times. And then let that knee fold into your chest. And hold around your knee. And have a couple of breaths there. It can be quite nice as you exhale to really stretch into the left heel. So this is the long leg. Stretch into the left heel, spread the left toes. And then let the leg relax. Now, from here, you're then going to bend your left knee and bring your left foot to stand on the floor. And now this is the point where using your belt or your sock or your scarf or whatever you've tracked down around your house, you're going to lengthen your right leg up towards the ceiling. And it would be, yeah, just make sure it's comfortable. Give yourself enough length, if possible, that the back of your knee can open. But also that the muscles in the front of your leg can be relaxed. So you might just want to give the muscles in the front of your leg a little bit of a slap. And yeah, are they relaxed? That would be a good thing. And then you're going to hold the belt in one hand. And it doesn't really matter which, because you're going to be taking both legs away from each other. And then you're taking both legs to the center. So it might be that they cross a little bit. Yeah, that's it. Good. So you've got one bent knee, you've got one long leg. You're first of all taking the legs away from each other. So the bent knee counterbalances the long leg a bit. And then you're bringing your legs towards the center and then maybe crossing. So the knees may be crossing behind the back of the bent knees may be crossing behind the back of the long leg. And just keep rocking like this. It might be that you want to stay in either of the movements for a few breaths. And that's when that bent leg becomes more of a counterbalance. So say if you wanted to have a few breaths with your legs wide, you could do. And you might also want to have a couple of breaths with your legs crossed. And obviously, whenever you've had enough, you're going to release your legs and maybe just lengthen them out on the floor. So this is one we haven't done for ages, and I'm quite sure why I thought of it, but so it's maybe the easiest one to do online. Are you all right there, Jan?
I was just going to say, we haven't done that for ages. I didn't do it with the open both legs, but I did today, this morning.
Oh, did you do that with the one leg? Yes. Well, it's
ages. Great minds think alike.
Yes, I know. It's funny that way, isn't it? So we're going to do the other side now. So when you've lengthened both legs out, then take a moment with both legs long. Then organise yourself so you've got the left knee bent, the left foot standing on the floor, your right leg is long. And then start to let your left knee tilt to the left and to the right. So feel now how you're moving in the hip joint, the left hip joint. Your right leg is long and heavy on the floor. Your pelvis is pretty settled. Your knee is tilting in and out, your left knee. And just see how it feels, because we're going to feel quite different on each side. I know I certainly am at the moment. So a couple more times, let the knee tilt in and out. And then pause in the center, and on an out breath, fold your left knee into your chest and hold around your knee with your hands, either around the top of the knee or the back of the thigh. Have a couple of breaths there. Maybe as you exhale, you could stretch into your right heel. So the long leg heel, really stretch into the heel, spread the toes, feel the muscles in the front of the leg engage, and then let that leg go. Good. And then bend the right knee, stand the right foot on the floor. And then use your belt or your scarf. Maria, bend, that's it, bend your right leg. So make sure you've bent your right leg. You've stood your right foot on the floor. Then you're lengthening your left leg out using your sock or your belt or whatever you found. Good. And then it's that same movement. Then both legs move away from each other and counterbalance each other. And then both legs come towards the center. And so your bent knee maybe crosses behind your long leg. Very nice. And just do this a few times. And it's really up to you whether you want to keep moving or whether you want to stay for a few breaths in either or both of the options. Good. Really nice. Lovely. And if you're staying for a few breaths, you let the breath come in, you let the breath leave you. If it starts to feel a bit effortful, you come out. Yeah. So there's that sense that we want to move, we want to bring this feeling of vitality into our body, but we just don't want to push anything too much at the moment. And so again, whenever you've had enough, you can release your leg. You might want to lengthen both legs out on the floor. If you'd like to take both legs up to the ceiling and shake them out, you can do. Very nice. And then one last thing on our backs, bend both knees, stand both feet on the floor. Give yourself a hug with your arms. So you're crossing your elbows over your chest. And now I want you to start rocking. So let the knees and the elbows and the head all rock to the same side and then to the other side. I think we did this one last week. So we're rocking across our back. The knees, the head, the elbows all going from side to side. Very nice. So eventually, you can carry on a bit more rocking depending how you're feeling. Eventually, you're going to rock all the way onto one side and we're going to come over and we're going to see how it feels to do dog pose. So I thought, and then we're going to do a few hands and knees things, but yeah, let's see how dog pose feels. You don't, maybe not leaping up into dog, but and I was going to see how it is tonight without turning on the light behind me. If it gets too dark, let me know. But when I was looking at the films on YouTube, it seemed a bit dazzling. So, yeah, I'm just wondering whether I should turn this light on over Otto. Any difference at all. But, yeah, just let me know if it gets a bit too dark. So when you're ready, coming onto hands and knees, nice big handprints on the floor. And then in your own time, tuck your toes under, rock your hips back and then up into dog. And see, yeah, just see how dog pose feels. So you might have already been very, what should I say? Yeah, have done some yoga already today. You might have already done a dog pose today. If it's the first dog pose of the day, it might feel a little bit creaky. Don't worry. But just, yeah, how does it feel? Most important thing is to really be with the feelings of our body, whatever those feelings are. And if we can release a bit of tension, if we can let our shoulders soften a bit, that's great. We can bend the knees if we like. And then from dog pose, you're going to be coming onto hands and knees. And we will come back into dog in a moment, but I just wanted us to do a few hands and knees things. So on hands and knees, you can do some cat movements.
Yes.
Dog pose felt a bit creaky, quite nice.
Yes.
We'll do a bit of cat, rounding your back, dipping your feet. The other thing you can do is a bit of tail wagging and see how that feels. And you can do a bit more cat pose, you can do a bit more tail wagging. When you're ready, we're going to be coming into lunge on hands and knees. So you're going to be from hands and knees, stepping one foot into lunge and seeing how that feels, having a few breaths here. Have a look at you. It seems to be noisy somewhere. So.
Sorry, it was me, Kara. I'm sorry. Steve told me that it was too late and I had to close the door.
Okay. You're being told you're noisy, Jan. So, okay, I won't mute you just yet then. So yes, one leg forwards into lunge, having a few breaths in lunge. And from here, if it feels okay, you could step into dog pose to change sides in lunge. So planting your hands down onto the ground. As you exhale, step that front foot back into dog pose. See how dog pose feels. You might want to adjust where your feet are. You might want to bend your knees quite a lot. What's going on in your shoulders? Can you let your shoulders feel a bit more undone? Maybe by bending the knees, softening the elbows, trying to create a bit of space between your shoulder blades. Big exhalation. And then we're going to come into the other side of lunge, which you can step forwards with your other foot from dog, or come down onto hands and knees and step your other foot forwards into lunge and see how lunge feels on side two. And have a few breaths here. So in lunge, just always remembering that your heel wants to be really planted on the floor. That's very important. Your knee over your heel, or the knee could come forwards over the foot a bit. But the main thing in lunge is that we're giving the pelvis down to the ground. We're opening out here, this delightful and delicious stretch. And then let's come into dog pose again, either from lunge or from hands and knees. You can come back onto hands and knees. You could plant your hands down, exhaling, rocking your hips. Up and back into dog pose. And just hopefully by now, it's in the moment we will go out and do our NHS cheering. Hopefully by now, dog pose is starting to feel that it's undoing a bit. So have a few breaths. Yeah, it might, after this dog pose, it might be that you want to have a few breaths in child pose. I'm nice yawning going on, everyone. So that's good to hear. Yawning. So yeah, up to you. Maybe just while we have another couple of minutes before we hit 8 o'clock, you could be having a few breaths in child pose. Okay. Sounds like it's time to go out on cheers, so back in a minute. Yep.
I'm in my yoga class.
So I can hear someone going crazy with a saucepan and spoon. Were you clapping out your window, Rachel?
Yeah, so everyone on our street is out. Yeah, yeah.
It's really not. I think it's louder. I think this is. It seems really loud tonight.
I think it's gaining momentum actually. Longer
Yeah.
than last week, and yeah, our street's really nice. Everyone on our street is set up a chat group. It's really nice. Yeah.
No, it's amazing. I think all that sort of community stuff is so great, isn't it? That is going on. No, it's really, really quite loud tonight.
I opened my window, Kara, in the loft room because I'm going all the way down and all the way back in my bed.
Oh yes, that's a good. Yeah, exactly. I think just lean out a window is good. Is everyone arriving back? Because good, everyone's arriving back. So I was going to show you what.
Just go out. You go out. Everyone claps and goes back in again.
It's the biggest excitement for the day. So look, what we're going to do now, this is quite exciting too, is we're going to do some of our one-legged dog poses. So it could be, you could have your knee bent, you could lengthen your leg, you could bend your knee. Just sort of have a little play around with what feels good. So one-leg dog poses, what feels good. And remember these ones, I just think they're movements. They're not places to stay and get fixed. They're like, what's it like to move into? What's it like to really stretch into your heel, the back heel, if you straighten that back leg. It's also really nice to play around with the bent leg, the leg you're raising. So I will join you and do a little bit more. So sometimes I like to, when I'm taking my foot off the floor, to have my knee quite bent. Keep the knee bent, and then the very last thing is lengthening into the heel, straightening the leg. Or equally, you could start by lifting a straight leg, and then the very last thing is bending your knee and letting the weight of the foot drop over. We're going to, from these, come up through a forward bend and into standing. So just take your time to play around. Do both sides, please. And then from a forward bend, you're going to be coming up into standing. Hi, Panna. You could back over. So, Panna, we were just doing, and you can, if you want to do it, we were just doing, before we come into standing, these one-legged dog poses like this. So it's whether you think your wrists will be, if you don't want to do these, just stay in standing. And then we will arrive up in standing in your own time. Good. We're all doing. So I think once you come into standing, maybe just have a moment of looking at your feet, and maybe just also a moment of closing your eyes and feeling your feet. Maybe a little bit of shifting your weight from side to side. Just can we arrive in standing? I think particularly after that excitement of going outside, I was just thinking, life doesn't have that many excitements at the moment. So, so that's settling and standing, just feeling that you're here. And then we're going to start to do, as we often do in standing, this nice, loose, easy, swinging twist. Let the whole of your body come along with the movement. So in standing today, we're going to be building up some movements, focusing on balances, but some other movements around the pelvis. And again, just be mindful of not overdoing anything. It's really good to move. It's really good to feel we're easing tension and tightness out of our bodies, but we don't want to do something that's not going to feel so great tomorrow. Okay, let's let that go. Let's come to, we've been doing these quite a bit recently, these ones where we come to balance on the balls of our feet. So we're going to do this a few times, coming up onto the balls of your feet, coming back down again. Just repeat that a few times, see how it feels. And eventually, if you feel quite steady here, it's entirely up to you. You could then take your arms up and just sneak your arms up. See how it feels to feel long and tall. So I'm just going to go side on in case you're not sure. So it's this feeling. And maybe doing this a couple of times, coming up onto the balls of your feet and then sneaking your arms up. And how is it to be in this balance where we're long and tall? We're letting the shoulders drop. We're trying to feel wide across the balls of our feet. And then when you come down out of this one, you're going to come down, let the heels come down and sweep your arms all the way down into a forward bend. And have a few breaths in that forward bend. Just letting your head go. Bend your knees as much as you like. So it depends how the backs of your legs are feeling. It's usually nice to bend the knees a bit, but it's entirely up to you. Have a big exhalation, just be nice and floppy. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, roll back up into standing. And then we're going to do that balance again. I think we did this a couple of weeks ago, where we bring our arms up and then we touch our hands in Hakini Mudra. And we then bring the mudra down into the chest. So we're going to do that one now. So this is always interesting. How is it to get the hands to meet over our head when we can't see them? So the first thing is to come up into the balance, onto the balls of your feet. And then as you exhale, bring the arms up, touch the pads of your fingers together, and then stay up in the balance and bring your hands down so they're in front of your chest. And then just see, how is it to settle here? These mudras, these hand positions can be very focusing for our mind and very helpful when we're in balances. That's very nice. Have another couple of breaths there and then you may be ready to come down. There you go. It's always a bit easier to balance when you're at home. So it's one of the benefits of down. A little shake out. Now, we're going to do some arm movements. Actually, first of all, come back to this one. Come back to your loose swinging twist. And in this, I want you just to be aware how, look, everything's moving, isn't it? A little bit everything's moving. And we're going to do a twist in a moment where we don't let the pelvis move, okay? So settle down. Jude, I'm going to unmute you. I muted you and it got a little bit noisy. I shall unmute you. So settle down, feet hip width apart and parallel. Bring your hands into prayer pose. So we have a little bit of swing in our arms. So let a breath come in. And as you exhale, you're going to take your arms down and out to the sides. And then swing your arms so they're crossing in front of you. Make sure you've got enough room to do this. Turn around if you're hitting your walls or anything. And then from here, you're going to swing your arms and cross them over your chest with your right arm on top. So a bit like we did on our backs, have your right arm on top because then you're not going to have to worry and remember which arm you need to have on top. And then here, keep your arms like this. I'm just going to move mine for a moment to show you. I want you to turn, but not move your pelvis. So just turn your ribs and your shoulders and your head to the right and to the left. So it's going to be this rather unnatural feeling, yeah? We're just moving from the waist up, but it's really good for getting the rib cage moving, which, as I was saying, is so good and helpful for our breathing. Now, from here, come on and bring your arms into eagle arms, this one, which I think you all know. And then step your feet a bit wider apart, so they're as wide as the mat. And we're going to go into a forward bend. Just watch me for a moment, because there's a little variation you can do in the forward bend. You can do a little side-to-side movement, a little side bending movement. My knees are quite bent. So if I go the other way, you see, yeah, in your forward bend, if you like, and that feels nice, so you can do that little side to side movement. Okay. So going forwards with your arms in eagle arms. And if you want to do that little side bending movement, it's sort of taking your shoulders to one side and then the other, but leaving your pelvis and your legs behind. And then, of course, you can just release and flop in the center, undo your arms. Don't worry about which arm was on top. It was the right one. I'm remembering for you. Good. So flop down to the center if you haven't done that already. Big exhalation. Another breath in as you exhale down into your heels, roll up into standing. When you come back into standing, bring your feet back hip width apart. Touch your hands in prayer pose again. So we're going to do all of that with the other arm on top. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, start to swing your arms, crossing them in front of you. Very nice. And then this time you're going to give yourself a hug with your right arm on, no, the left arm on top. So same thing, other arm, left arm's on top this time. We're going to do that little twisting movement where we leave our pelvis behind, we turn our shoulders and our ribs and our head to the right and to the left. Not that easy, but just doing our best to try and keep our pelvis facing forwards. Then stop in the center, bring your arms on into eagle arms, this one here. We're going to then take our feet as wide as the mat. And again, if you want to, when you go down, do this little side bending movement. You can do. Just check that your lower back feels okay, or you can just fold forwards, whatever feels best. And then obviously let your arms go whenever you want to, and just nice and floppy. So if you haven't let your arms go, let them go now. Flop down in the center. Breathing in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. Now this time when you arrive in standing, stay here with your feet as wide as the mat. The narrow edge of the mat, please. Then we're going to do some of these side lengthening movements. So reaching up and over with the top arm, letting the bottom arm hang. The pelvis can move in this direction towards the top arm way, if that feels nice. You know, I find these a bit hard to breathe in, so you don't necessarily need to stay there that long. Perhaps 3 times to each side. We're feeling, again, the ribs opening up through the side of the body. So these, again, are very good for the ribs. Very good for, you know, if we're trying to, I suppose, facilitate easier breathing, getting the rib cage to be a bit freer. Make this your last one on each side. Or we'll be here all day, all evening. Good. And then have a little shake out, because we're going to carry on. Yes, I've almost forgotten that. We're going to carry on with our feet in this position. What you're going to do is fold forwards. Just watch me for a moment, and you're going to play around with bending one knee and then the other. So maybe I'll do it sideways on. And you can do this by swinging your pelvis as you bend one knee. Or you could do it by just letting your pelvis tilt a little bit. Now, if your fingers don't reach the floor easily, you might want to block under them. You're not taking weight in your fingers. But if you want them, you know, you could be here, arms could be hanging. So see how it feels to come forwards again. And then what's it like to bend one knee, bend the other knee? And there are these couple of ways to do it. So you can be bending one knee, bending the other knee, by really swinging your pelvis from side to side. But you can also bend one knee and bend the other knee by not swinging your pelvis so much, by just letting your pelvis tilt. So as you bend your knee, your pelvis tilts a little bit towards the bent knee side. It doesn't have to swing all the way. So when you've had a bit of a play around with that, come back up, because then I want to show you where we're going to with this one. So I think some of you will know this. So come back up and watch me. So what we're going to do is we're going to be bending one knee by tilting the pelvis, and then we're turning away from the bent knee leg, and this arm may come up, yeah? So this leg is straight, this knee is bent, I'm turning away from the bent leg. I'll show you facing, that's it, towards you, away from you. Okay, and so this little twist, and it might be that you want to block under your hands. Under your hand. Yeah, it might be you want your hand flat on the floor. But the most important thing to remember is you're turning away from the bent leg. So, come forwards into your forward bend. That's the first thing to do. Make sure your weight is in your feet. You don't want to be taking your weight into your hands. They're really just there to stabilize you. The hands are under the shoulders. And then you're going to bend one knee. And bring the straight leg arm onto the back, hand onto the back of your pelvis, and start to turn away from the bent knee. See how that feels in the ribs, and if you want to take your top arm up towards the ceiling, you can do. I would do this a couple of times to each side. So rather than staying there a long time, untwist, bend the other knee, try it on the other side. So you do it at least 2 times to each side. Keep checking that your weight is in your heels, not in your hand. So you should be able to pick your hand up. If you're wondering where you're looking, I would just look in the direction that you're turning. And you're looking sort of straight forwards rather than down your body. Very nice. If you take that top arm up and it doesn't feel comfy, then don't take it up. Yeah. And if you do take it up, you want to try and feel that your hand is immediately over your shoulder. So do this a couple of times, at least to each side. You could do it 3 times if you're moving in and out. And then you can let yourself flop forwards in the center. And just have a couple of breaths. Let your legs do the same at this point. Good. So again, this is a rotation. It's again really good for freeing up the ribs. Come back up into standing when you're ready and have a little shake out. Now we're going to take our feet a bit wider. So make sure your feet are on your mat, comfortably wide. Feet need to stay parallel. If anything, the big toes turn in slightly. We're going to fold forwards, so you might want your block under your hands. You can do a bit of bending one knee, bending the other. You could also just do a bit of coming into this forward bend. Holding your elbows, resting your hands on your ankles. Yeah, just what's it like to be in a forward bend that's a bit wider? We're not going to do anything particular here, but you could be bending one knee at a time if you like. In this one, when you bend one knee at a time, when you bend one knee, your pelvis has to shift. Good. Make sure your weight is in your heels. So again, yeah, the pelvis stays back over the heels, the weight's in the heels. You could pick your hands up off the floor at any time. And you're not overdoing it, please. Very nice, everyone. So do you have a few, if you're still okay in your wide forward bend, have a couple of breaths where you're just folding and sort of staying there and breathing. So rather than shifting side to side, what's it like just to be there? And to really feel the heels rooting into the ground. And as the heels root into the ground, the sort of message goes up the backs of your legs and it tells your spine to release forwards. And then you can breathe in, you can exhale, you can sink into your heels, you can come up into standing and have a little bit of a shake out. So how are we doing? We all right? Everyone good? Good? That's okay. Now, we're going to think a little bit more. I've got to give you two options for this next thing. So, option one, you possibly, what would be quite good is if there's a bed or I've got the sofa here, something you can have under your hands in a forward bend. The other option would be to something like, for example, I've got the mantelpiece here. Because what I'd like you to do in a forward bend, you can be high or low, is to, and this is in bend, or the leg can be straight. Can we think about how the pelvis could move on top of our stance? Yeah, so you could be here, you could be a bit higher up, or you could be in a forward bend here. Would you like to put a leg up? Maybe lengthen that leg out. And can you see we're trying to move from the pelvis being level to the pelvis rolling on top of the standing leg. Both feet on the floor. So you've got a couple of options. So it could be that you have your hands on your sofa or your bed or a pile of books. What's really important here again is that your weight stays in your feet. So if you start to feel that you're really taking a lot of weight into your hands, yeah, that's nice, Anna, with the mantelpiece, I think. So we've got all these sofas, yes, we've got these great things we can use at home. Very nice. That's it, Jan. Think about if you're taking your leg back and up, that your heel is also staying level with your the same height as your pelvis. Super. Do this on both sides as well. And at this point, you're keeping both hands on the floor. How are we doing? Brilliant. Nice. So yeah, we've done both sides. Come up and have a little shake out. This will show in. Yes, so you've got options now. Now, one option would be is if you might be able to see me here. We're going to do this. We're going to do our half moon pose. If you have a wall, you can have behind you can do balance with your back against a wall. So what we're going to be doing is, I mean, pretty much what you were doing, taking one leg back, but now, what's it like to take that hand off the floor and arm comes up towards the ceiling. We start to look forwards rather than down. Good. So, yeah. But think you could have a wall all along the length of your body. So if you've got a wall, clear wall space where you're practicing, you could make it really easy and do that with a wall behind you. Yeah, if you're in your loft, Jan, you've got no wall at all you can use, but
I'm afraid up here.
So if you haven't got a wall, do you start by doing a forward bend?
Yes, so if you're not using a wall, and probably if you are using a wall as well, your starting point is a forward bend. And then you want to see, okay, can I have my fingers on the floor? Do I have maybe a block or two? And then your starting point is bringing your leg off the ground. And then it's really, okay, how can I keep my balance and bring my hands up? As you all know, the crucial thing is where your back heel, so the heel of the raised leg, you need to make sure that heel is not wandering around, because that's what's going to make you fall over. So if you're falling over, if you feel you're falling over, it's usually because this back heel is wandering, and you want to feel that your back heel is moving back behind you. So another thing you could try is, I'm wondering if this will show. Yeah, something you could try is taking your foot onto, you could just have your foot on a wall. So here, I'm helping myself by having, hopefully you can see, having my foot just by my fireplace. And then that leg's not wobbling around. But if you do that one, if you're taking your foot onto the wall, you want to probably be further away from the wall than you think. If you're too close to the wall, it's going to push you forwards. Are we all right? Do ask me if you've got any questions. If you've had enough. Good. Kayla, you might want your hands a bit nearer to your foot, I think. Yeah, I think you've got your hands too far forwards, which sort of means you start to lean into your hands. That's So I suppose it's almost coming back. If we're thinking about what's really important in this one, is that our weight stays in our standing foot. Because then we want to bring our arm off the floor. It's much easier if we have very little weight. If we've got a lot of weight going through our hands, it's obviously much harder to get our hand off the floor. Do both sides, please, if you can bear it. So.
Sarah, do you have any tips for not getting cramp in your hips?
Oh, who's that? Is that you, Kayla?
Yeah.
Well, yes, I think probably, is it the standing leg that's cramping?
It's both.
Both. I mean, I quite like starting when I raise my leg with my knee bent. That seems to help me. So rather than straightening out my leg first of all when it feels very heavy, if I can have my knee bent as I really roll the pelvis, that seems to help me a bit. Yeah, I mean, I think it is something people experience quite frequently, Kayla. That sort of crampy feeling in the legs. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things. If you've had enough, if you're still playing around with that, then please carry on. If you've had enough, we're going to be doing a forward bend and coming into a squat. So you might want a book or a block to go under your heels because we're going to stay in the squat. But from a forward bend, bending your knees forwards. This just will feel nice for your back. So if your heels come up, slide the block under them, and then you can stay in a squat. And what we're really thinking about here is dropping the pelvis towards the floor. Some of you might find you can bring your knees apart, and it might be nice to fold your body down in between your knees. Sometimes I feel a bit too much of a stretch on my lower back. Just see if there's a place in squatting where you can be happy. You can have a few breaths. You can let your pelvis really hang and feel heavy. And that's what lengthens out the lower back. And then from here, we're going to be, we can sliding our blocks out. We're going to be sitting down cobbler pose again. See how that feels. So you can lean back onto your hands. You can sit up a bit more. You can hold your feet. Have a few breaths. So we will, and I know we've been moving quite a lot. We're going to do a little bit more around the hips and pelvis, and then, I shouldn't say we're lying down just yet, because you might be disappointed. We're then en route to lying down. So from here, we're going to go back into pinwheel, and from pinwheel on into pigeon. So it doesn't matter which side, let one knee come on top of the other knee, and then slide that top leg back. And come to a little bit of circling. And yes, hopefully this will feel quite nice, Kayla, after, hips were feeling crampy in a half moon pose, which, I think is really common in that one. But, the leg is a heavy weight and the hips are not used to those movements. So from here, what we're going to do is, again, let's have a couple of breaths folding over the knee that's going out to the side. So like we did at the beginning of the class, come back to here. See how this feels, because it's quite a nice restful place to be. So we can have a few breaths here, just settling down, giving the weight of our body down through our leg, down our thigh, down into the floor. Let your breath come in, let your breath leave you. Now, to go from here into pigeon pose, what I tend to do is walk my hands in a bit. And then this knee that we will fold over, we need to let that knee come a little bit more back. And then we lengthen out the back leg. We let our pelvis roll into pigeon pose. Now, if your front knee isn't happy, so ideally we're coming to a place where our pelvis is level, and you might take a hand there to feel it, and I will have a look in a moment. If this front knee is feeling too much pressure, then let yourself roll off to the side. So you're rolling more onto the hip joint of that front leg hip joint. So you're being a bit more lopsided with your pelvis. And yeah, have a few breaths. So you could do a little bit of rocking. So I like to do this one, tucking my toes under, rocking myself up and down along my mat. You could do a little bit of rocking from side to side. And I'm just going to have a look at you. And if anyone, yeah, just shout if you're not sure, because I'm not sure how many pelvises I can see. Not that many. So yeah, so pigeon online, we just have to be really attentive that we're not doing something that doesn't feel good for the knees. And whenever you want to come out, so if you're quite happy in pigeon, you know, if you want to come out, roll onto that front leg hip and just let both legs lengthen out. You could take them wide. If you're happy in pigeon and you wanted to try walking your hands in a little bit, let your shoulders drop down away from your ears, your shoulder blades slide down your back. You could do. But also, yes, when you're ready, just rolling out, leaning back on your hands, let your legs be long and relaxed. So you might have your legs a little bit apart. You know, or if you really like your legs wide, you can have your legs wide. And then come back to cobbler pose once more. See how that feels. And then from cobbler pose, we're going to go on to the other side of pinwheel, into the other side of pigeon. So let come over the other way, slide that top leg back, do a little bit of circling. And then just like we did on the other side, we're going to turn towards this knee that's coming out to the side, and we're going to fold down over that leg and have a few breaths here. Just let the weight of your body settle down over your thigh in pinwheel. Very nice. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then to go into pigeon, you can walk your hands in towards you a little bit. We then want to bring this knee we will fold it over, we will slide that knee back a little bit. And then lengthen out the back leg, let our pelvis roll over. Come onto our elbows. We could be bringing our hand onto the back of the pelvis, trying to feel, is my pelvis level? This knee here is going straight forwards now, or maybe slightly out to the side. So I'll just turn around this way so you can see. So if you're looking down at this leg, if your knee is in the center, you might want to bring it a bit more out to the side. And then having a few breaths in pigeon pose, any sort of rocking that feels comfortable, you can do. You can be on your elbows. If you like to go down lower, you can go lower. And also, if you like to come up a little bit higher onto your hands and see how that feels, that's another possibility. Good. So a few more breaths in pigeon pose, but again, whenever you're ready to come out, if it's starting to feel that you've had enough, you're going to roll onto one leg joint, lean back onto your hands, give your legs a little bit of a length out. So it says 3. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do now. So I'd like you to just choose a sitting position you could enjoy, or you know, just a minute or so. So some of you might want to sit with your legs long and wide. Some of you might want to come to cobbler pose. Some of you might just want to have your legs sort of straighter in front of you, leaning onto your hands. So I thought it would be really interesting to come to this one. So we often do this balance, Anantasana. Am I visible? So not disappearing to the bottom of the laptop. So this Anantasana, this balance where we're long on our mat, I thought it'd be really interesting to do it towards the end of our practice. We can come to here. We can come to here. We can come to here. So we'll do this together in a moment, or you'll do it and I'll watch you. When we've done one side of that, we're going to roll onto our belly. And we'll do a few things on our belly and then we'll do the other side. So come down onto one side, preferably start on the side that you can see me from, I think would be the most helpful. So remember in this one, Anantasana, we're trying to be as long as we can, as long and straight on our mat, and it is a balance. So I like to prop my head up in my hand, but you could lean your head onto your hand. It's up to you. I like to prop my head up in my hand. The other hand's on the floor in front of me. I'm really stretching my heels away. And I've got a bit of contact of the bottom foot on the floor. Just at this point, do a little bit of rocking forwards and back. So you're just trying to see how does it feel to shift your weight. A little bit forwards, a little bit back. Can you find the most comfortable place to settle down? Any little adjustments you need to make. So we're really trying to settle on the floor as much as we can. And then when you're ready, the top leg comes into tree pose, and you might need to use your hand for this. And see how this feels. Have a few breaths here. And then from here, and this, I did say, should have said earlier at this point, it might be that when you catch your top leg, so you need your belt or your sock. So from here, we're bringing this top knee towards the armpit in the top side of the body. And then from here, you could catch your trouser leg, you could catch your ankle, you could catch your big toe, you could use your belt to lengthen this top leg up towards the ceiling. So it's a little bit like we're back in our half moon pose. Similar sort of balance, but our foot is on the ceiling, towards the ceiling rather than on the floor. Good. And just see how it feels to have a few breaths here. And then in your own time, you can start to reverse the movements. So from here, come back, knee towards your armpit, come back into tree pose. Come back to having 2 long legs and just see, can you balance on your side? And then from here, roll onto your belly. Settle down. So I don't mind where you have your hands to start with. I quite like to have my forehead resting on the back of my hands, but you don't need to. And settle on your belly. Give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. Can you wiggle your pelvis to the right and to the left? Now, I'm going back to what I was reading about, things that really support our breathing, and apparently lying on our belly is one of them, because we all spend too much time. Most of us don't do so much of it. So I was thinking, oh, this is really interesting. That yeah, so for the health of our lungs, it's really good to be on our bellies. So here you are. From wiggling your pelvis, I would then like you to bring your arms so they're either side of your head. A bit like your arms are in child pose, but perhaps with your elbows a bit more bent. So it's like you're making a big circle with your arms either side of your head. If you're not sure, look at me. And now you're going to see, how does it feel as you exhale to sink into your elbows and lift your head, using the muscles in your upper back. Maria, just your elbows on the floor, not cobra. So yes, your arms on the floor either side of your head rather than your hands on the floor. Exhale, starting with your forehead on the ground.
Are we in child pose? Sorry.
No, you're on your belly, Ruth. Where are you? In child pose? You're on your belly. Yes, on your belly. So you've got your arms are like child pose. So your arms are either side of your head.
Oh, got you.
Sinking into your forearms and you're lifting your head up. And then you're coming back down again. But your elbows are staying on the floor. So it's not a huge movement, but you're trying to feel you're using the muscles in your upper back to lift your head, as well as sinking down into your, that's very nice, Hannah, into your forearms. So do this a few times. So it's as you exhale, you go down into your arms, you lift your head, you keep the back of your neck long, your chest might lift up a little bit as well. And then you come back down as you breathe in, maybe. So the out breath you use to take you into this little lifting movement, and perhaps you come back down with the inhalation or with the next out breath. So do one or two more. And then just let yourself rest down. And then one more movement. That's the one, Sam, your movement. So one more movement on your belly before we come to side 2 of Anantasana. Rest your head down, rest your arms, bend your knees. And yes, Emma's got it. Emma as well, got it. Yes, bend your knees, put your feet up towards the ceiling and tip your legs, tilt your feet from side to side. That's it, Hannah. So that's it. Rock the feet from side to side. As long as this feels comfortable. If your lower back doesn't like it, there's some very enthusiastic foot waving going on here. If your lower back isn't happy, just bring your feet a bit lower down. Maria, make sure your feet are really relaxed. They look a bit like, yeah, that's it. The feet should be relaxed here. And you tip your feet to the right and to the left. You tilt your feet. And the whole lower legs tilt to the right and to the left. Okay, it looks very nice, everyone. Let your legs come down. And you're going to roll now onto your second side, so side 2 of Anantasana. If you're not sure what you're doing and you want to turn around and make sure and face me, you can do. So it's entirely up to you. So we're on our sides again, we're propping up our head in our hands. That's what I like to do. Resting the head on the arm. You've got your hand on the floor in front of you. Both legs are long. You do a little bit of rocking forwards and back on your side, seeing how that feels. When we start to think about coming into the balance more, bringing our hand off the floor, we want to be sending our heels away from us, anchoring the outer edge of the bottom foot onto the floor when we bring our top leg into tree pose. We're needing to use our top hand to catch our ankle maybe. So seeing how that feels. Have a few breaths there. And then trying to feel steady through our side as we fold that top knee in towards our armpit on the top side of the body. Now, if you feel very wobbly at this point, you could bend your bottom knee and slide it forwards on the floor. That's a possibility. So from here, catch your trouser leg, your ankle, use your sock, your belt, catch your big toe, lengthen out your top leg. See how that feels. Can you stay balancing? Can you really feel that you're extending into both heels? Can you breathe? Very nice. I can hear some breathing. It's a good sign. Okay, now this one I'm just thinking, oh, can feel a bit, also feel a bit crampy in the hips, which would be an indication that's the time to come down.
Okay.
Knee back to your armpit, back into tree pose. Coming back, can you balance on your side? Can you bring your top arm along the top side of your body? From here, we're going to roll back onto our belly again. And we're just going to do a little bit of breathing, not a huge amount. If you want to settle yourself down, so rolling onto your belly, have your arms wherever is comfortable, start with. If you want to wiggle your pelvis or tilt your legs side to side to help you feel comfy, do so. And we're just going to do a little bit of breathing on our belly because having read that it is helpful for our breathing to be here. So I'd quite like you, once you're settled, to see if you can bring one hand onto your lower back. So it's really interesting, I find, if I bring my hand onto my back when I'm lying on my belly, and see if you can feel. So it's quite nice if that hand is coming onto the lower back or maybe even the low ribs. Can you feel the back of your body responding to your breath? And I think this is one of the helpful things about lying down on our front, is it maybe means that we're accessing the lungs in the back of our body a bit more, because the back of the body can move more, because the front of the body is constrained by the floor. So just a few more breaths. How does it feel to be focusing on the movement of the breath in the lower back, in the low ribs? Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave us. And if you're happy here, have another couple of breaths. But what we're going to be doing from here is, you might think, hurrah, rolling onto our backs. And we're going to do just a little bit of movement, and we're going to do some breathing here. So if you want to put on anything warm, then now would be a good time. It still feels quite warm to me. So we have both dogs lying on the sofa here, joining us, which is very nice. So settle down onto your backs, and just, we'll do a little bit of movement to help us settle, and then we will do a bit of breathing. So first of all, just see how it feels to arrive on your back. So I always find if you don't like lying on your belly, then when you come onto your back, it feels extra nice. So it might just be nice to be there and breathe. See how your lower back feels. And if you think your lower back would benefit from you folding your knees into your chest, then you could do that. The lower back usually does benefit from the knees folding into the chest. So we could all do that. We could fold our knees into our chest, hold around our knees, and do a little bit of rocking from side to side. So let the head and the knees rock in the same direction. You could take this, if you wanted to, into Happy Baby by orientating the feet, the soles of the feet towards the ceiling, taking the knees wide, holding your ankles or around the back of your knees, a little bit of rocking side to side, holding your big toes even. I'm not sure, most of you, Happy Baby is a Thursday evening favourite, so most of you know this. Do a little bit of rocking. You could also lengthen your legs up towards the ceiling and shake them out. So you could add your arms in. And in fact, actually, let's do this with a buzzing breath 3 times. So hold your knees back in towards your chest. And as we make a buzzing sound, we're going to take our arms and legs up towards the ceiling and then fold in at the end of the buzz. So let a breath come in. Hold back in. We'll do that 2 more times. Let a breath come in. And one last time, let your breath come in. And then bring your feet down to stand on the floor. And let's finish with one of the first movements we did in lying earlier on, which is just feet hip width apart, letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left, and seeing how that feels now. That's nice. So when we do these familiar movements, they can be they can be soothing for us on all levels, soothing and settling and calming. And then let's settle down, either with your knees bent or your legs long, whatever's most comfortable. You could even, if you've got the sofa in the vicinity, if you want to lie with your legs up on the sofa, you could do. We're going to do some breathing now. And focusing on the breath in a few different places in our body and seeing how this feels. So the first thing we're going to do is focus on the breath quite low down in the belly. So I'd like you to take your hands onto your belly, underneath your belly button. So you've got, you might have the heel of your hand resting on the sort of what feels like the hip bones. It's the bony rim of your pelvis, and your fingers going down towards your pubic bone. So hands really quite low down. And just seeing what you feel under your hands as you focus your attention into this part of your body. So we're seeing, I'm going to mute everyone at this point, so if you need to speak to me, just so it's a bit quieter, so if you need to speak to me, just wave your hand. So with your hands very low on the belly, just seeing what you feel. And so it might well be the belly, the hands feel the belly responding to your breathing. So the belly may be rising a bit as you breathe in, falling back a bit as you exhale. But as well as the belly, the hands feeling, the belly moving with the breath, the belly also feels the warmth and weight of the hands. And that's very calming and reassuring. So we have this two-way sensing process going on. The hands feeling the belly and the belly feeling the hands. And we just let the breath come in, we let the breath leave us. And then from here, you're going to bring your hands a little bit higher up. So your hands are on your low ribs and a bit more out to the sides. So you could have your thumb going around towards the back ribs, but you don't have to. Just make sure, just be comfortable. And then see how it feels to focus on the movement of these low ribs with your breath. So as the breath comes in, you feel the ribs maybe widening into your hands. And as the breath leaves you, you feel the ribs narrowing. And this is a very nice place to really let our breathing perhaps feel a little bit longer, wider, deeper, without any feeling of force, but just that sense that as the breath comes in, we want to allow the breath to travel all the way to the bottom of the lungs, so those low ribs widen. And when we exhale, we want to allow that opportunity for the out breath to leave us completely. So we really feel those low ribs narrow. And so to feel these long breaths where we fill and empty completely, as maybe everything slows down a little bit. So have another couple of breaths with your hands there. And then you're going to bring your hands right up towards the top of your rib cage, so just below your collarbones. Make sure you've still got your elbows on the floor so it's comfortable. And see how it feels to breathe with your hands, or to focus on your breath with your hands in this position. So it might feel a lighter breath. We might feel that it's this sensation of the breath as it first enters the lungs and those first ribs start to respond. So just sort of see how it feels to have a few breaths with the hands much higher up. We can let the breath be quite light, quite soft. Can we feel this upper part of the rib cage responding as the breath comes in, as the breath leaves us? And then we're just going to have a minute or so just lying quietly, and it might be now that you want to bring your hands back. You could keep your hands there, you could bring them back to one of the other places. You could also just let your hands and arms come to rest on the floor. So, and just a sense now that we're going to lie, have an awareness of our breathing, but also the whole of ourselves lying here. So feeling the length of our body in contact with the ground. Letting the weight of the head rest on the floor, shoulders settle back onto the ground, the elbows, back of the ribs, maybe some of the vertebrae, the pelvis, the legs, the feet. Be aware of the feeling of the air on your skin. Any sounds around you, both near and distant. And also allowing any feelings, bodily sensations, thoughts, anything that's part of your inner world to arise, to be present, but also to depart. For the moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl, but until then, let's just settle quietly with this sense of everything that is present, both inward and outward, right now. So I'm going to unmute you all now. Okay, you're all unmuted now. So I was just going to say, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so lovely to it's so lovely to see you all. And it's dark now, isn't it? So anyway, so enjoy the sunshine. Responsibly in your own garden. So yes, let me just turn off the recording. I will, because yes.